Thanks for joining us for Tuesday's edition of Elko Live here on KELK. As we do on Tuesday, we set aside for city news and issues. And in advance of today's regular city council meeting that'll open at 4 o'clock this afternoon, we are so pleased to feature our Elko City Utilities Director. Dale Johnson is in studio for our update. And Dale, thank you so much for making the time to be here today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah, so Dale's going to walk us through. There's some big agenda items for the meeting that have to do with our water systems and the water modernization plan. But also Jan Baum, our city manager, said, hey, Dale can also just kind of highlight some of the agenda items today. I think the beauty and what's unique about Elko city government, Dale, if I'm not mistaken, but department heads, you often meet together. I mean, as a group, collectively, you help one another with projects, and you often support each other, or if not vying for particular budget dollars, right? I mean, it's a real collaborative effort, it seems like.
Yeah, we do collaborate quite often amongst all department heads, and we have meetings every few weeks. And of course, all these larger projects, a lot of us are involved in them.
So it's really nice to have that kind of communication and collaboration within city government. So tops on the agenda, well, I shouldn't say tops, but there'll be a couple of things. But sadly, Tom Lester from Elko Convention and Visitors Authorities has to resign from the City Arts and Culture Advisory Board. That does create an opening, so it's an opportunity for someone else to sit on that board, right, Dale?
It does, and we should be posting something about having somebody step up into that position.
That's great. So whether or not you already have some applications, I think there were some interested folks during the recent meeting when Casey Bennett was appointed.
Yeah, there was some interesting parties that were looking at filling those vacancies.
That's great. The city plays an important role in helping to not only choose, but to promote and support the arts in general in our community. The mayor has the Mayor's Arts Award. That's an annual event. And we saw the city participate in the recent mural project with 14 additional murals added throughout the community. So this is an important board to sit on, right, Dale?
It is, yeah. The Arts and Culture Board is very town-oriented, and they try to do great projects in the downtown area for the city residents and, anybody who visits the city. Yeah,
it does add quite a bit to not only our quality of life, but to the visitor aspect as well. And I was talking to Casey Bennett, who, by the way, he is super enthusiastic. So happy to see him sitting on the board. He's very involved in the arts and the fine arts in our community, and he's, looking forward to seeing what can be created. You collaborate with groups like the Downtown Business Association, because with their huge corridor improvement project, Dale, they'll be installing some pedestals, I think, once the sidewalk project is complete.
Yeah, they're installing those pedestals for some artwork and things like that, and that whole downtown project area will be new sidewalks and pretty much beautification of the downtown area.
Yeah, it does invite and encourage people to spend time there and to host special events and activities. And it also is important to note that most of, if not all, the improvements are paid with private investments. Often the city does match or incentivize, but certainly the city's been in a position to do that with creating that general improvement district. So
that's correct.
So also on the agenda, a possible approval for the Parks and Recreation Coordinator position. Looking for someone really dynamic for this job, I would assume.
Yeah, these positions like this for the Parks Department and all other departments, we're always looking for qualified people to take on these roles. And this one here is just a reclassification of the job description.
So you already have a person.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to put the fear in that person. You're doing a good job. Yeah.
Right. They're just changing the job description to meet the actual duties that the person's already fulfilling.
Oh, that is good to hear. So again, that reflects some negotiations with the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 3, and that also helped to define this next agenda item, the Water Sewer Operator 4 position.
Yeah, currently we have operators 1 through 3 for the water system and the sewer collection system, but our system's actually a distribution 4 system, so having those operator 4s would be a benefit to the community and, the city as well.
Yeah, these are positions that normally would command pretty good salaries in the private sector, journey level, for example.
Yeah, this is a journey level position. It's the highest operator classification for state certification. So it is a decent paying job, and you do have to have some schooling and things like that to take these exams and be able to pass them.
Well, and that's what we're looking for, isn't it, Dale, to have these qualified employees who want to work for the city and want to stay and to enjoy the benefits of living close to home.
Yep, especially when they're dealing with our drinking water.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So, and again, is that a position that's already filled, just reclassified?
This one is a new position, so we would be filling this position, whether it be internal at this point. We do have a few positions open in the water department, but somebody could apply and get this position, but we do have one candidate that's internal that could move on up into this position at this time.
All right. So that'll be discussed and decided most likely during the council meeting at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We're talking with Dale Johnson. He's our Elko City Utilities Director for the city of Elko. And moving on to, and speaking of employees, it's always nice to give a nod to new employees. I notice the city really enjoys doing that, and the council greets them. Danielle Glennon is an animal shelter worker. And Nicole Stevens has gone to work as a city clerk technician, too, in the clerk's office.
Yeah, that's right. Clerk's office has been, they've had a lot of openings lately, so it's nice to get these openings filled and get that department up to where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's great to see Annette Robinson really fitting into that role and inspiring other people around her. Everybody pitched in when our former clerk retired, and that was a well-deserved retirement for her, and hopefully she's off enjoying. I think I was surprised. She seems too young to be a grandma, but I guess she gets to be a grandma now, so that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Kelly Wooldridge, so happy about that news. And then I guess we can, unless there are things that you want to make sure, we can kind of dive into, we can dive into the water issues. Those do take up, maybe before we get into water, because we're going to spend a lot of time talking about water, right? Elko Regional Airport, Jim Foster does an amazing job for the city, and he is applying for some funding. The Nevada Aviation Technical Advisory Committee approved Elko into this different category, and so now we're in the pool for as much as $1 million a year. Am I reading that correctly, or at least maybe some matching money?
Yeah, matching money. That's a grant that we haven't been able to apply for in the past. So currently, like with our AIP projects, we would have to have matching funds from the city to apply for grant funds, and this type of grant will cover those funds, so they would pay our matching portion.
Wow, that's fantastic. So that is through AB 58, so Assembly Bill 58, the Fund for Aviation. Just spoke with Bert Gurr on Saturday. Yeah, he was on the road. So we did an interview Saturday, and Dale, he's working on the aviation legislation. So hopefully, he said that Mayor Keener sits on a state board. In fact, I guess he chairs the state board. So hopefully we can steer more financial resources.
Yeah, we definitely need more financial resources for our flight program.
Yeah, right now the city is subsidizing, along with the county, about $1.5 million. I think it's about $1.5 million set aside. Hopefully we don't use that. I understood enplanements are actually going up.
Yeah, they have been up over the last few months, so that's good for us.
Yeah, that's less taxpayer money we have to direct.
And less money that we have to come up for those funds to help cover those costs.
So appreciate the work of FAN and Lander County. They're also pitching in the upcoming fiscal year, I guess, $250,000 for the flights, because it's a regional airport.
Right.
So let's see if I'm not jumping around too much. Kind of some housekeeping things. And there'll be a public hearing at 5:30. We can kind of finish off with that. That's not a real surprising public hearing. But, I know, under unfinished business, and I'm sure you've sat in on all these city meetings too, Dale, about Shady Elms Mobile Home Park. And we do know that among the problems that were plaguing the neighborhood, some open sewage, some raw sewage in the park. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to explain this was a responsibility of the private property owner, right?
It is. They've actually had water leaks on the property that they've let go for months at a time and not fix them. Sewer backups on the property in the service lines to the main. So all these were like at the clean out areas, and they just weren't maintaining these. So sewage was actively flowing on the ground.
Wow, that's terrible, especially since there were families and children. But the good news is that there is a local representative, and cleanup is underway. In fact, the representatives are, as far as we've been hearing during the recent meetings, complying with the timeline.
Yeah, they've been doing a good job. All the water leaks and sewer backups have been fixed, and so those things are taken care of. And they've started a lot of the cleanup and cleaning out some of the trash and taking down some of the burnt trailers and things like that. So it's well underway.
That's good news. And again, thanks to the neighbors who they had to muster the courage, first of all, to go knock on each other's doors, which is not easy, but to decide to collectively start planning and approaching the city to get something done about this nuisance in their neighborhood. So neighbors made it happen.
Yeah, it was nice to see that input from the community, and it's nice to have a working relationship with the property owner to get some of this stuff taken care of in a timely manner.
Absolutely. And it was nice to see the Elko City Council treat those, not only the property owners, but to treat the neighbors with respect too, since took a lot of courage for them to come forward to complain. So those are some of the outstanding agenda items in time for the 4 o'clock meeting today. And are you ready to talk water?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay. Dale Johnson is our Elko City Utilities Director, and a few months ago, it might have been even this time last year, I think you came on, or even earlier in the year, with some of your employees, some of the department's employees, to talk about the importance of this water modernization plan, which now you've been given the go-ahead, right?
Yeah, we've been given the go-ahead. We've actually went to Carson City and received grant funding and loan funding for this project through bonds. This will pay for our meter installations, our meters. It's an AMI system, which is a radio read system throughout the city. With the meters, it'll pick up leaks on the customer side of the property. Customers will have the ability to log on to their account and see what they're actually using each day or over a month period. So it's very user-friendly for the community, and it should help with water conservation as well.
How does it compare with what, say, the Spring Creek Association has? Because we hear all the time about water woes in Spring Creek and how expensive it is, Dale.
So with the bonding and loans for this, we're taking out $14 million at 1% interest over a 20-year period. So our payback on it's over that 20 years, and it's 2 payments a year, roughly around $600,000, which our user fees would pay for. We've already had our rate increase, so we wouldn't be having another rate increase going forward. So we should be in a good position to pay this back and get this infrastructure built.
So when you talked about that user fees, we actually invest in our water system every time we pay our water bill?
We do. So much money a year goes back into depreciation. So long-term costs of replacement of water lines, meters, things like that.
Well, that's healthy, right?
Yeah, it is.
And I hope people don't mind, but I think it's important we remember Lee Hoffman right now, because Lee wasn't just the chairman of the Elko County GOP Central Committee, but when he was on the city council, he actually established the foundation for what we're able to enact today, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he was a good guy. And he cared a lot about the city, and he cared about our water and sewer infrastructure.
He really was an advocate of that, and always said we needed first world infrastructure. So
And he believed in taking responsibility for if you consume it and you use it, and you should be able to pay for it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Thank you, Lee Hoffman, for the water modernization plan that we're about to embark on. In fact, Lee and Lynn both were regulars at Elko City Council meetings, so there'll be an empty seat at City Council when the council meets at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Very deeply missed. So, as you mentioned, that $14 million, and the city may not use all of that. It's 1% interest for 20 years, so that's a pretty good bond.
Yeah, and we may not use all of it. $1.5 million of that is a principal forgiveness bond, which the city would not have to pay back. So that also helps as well. So we're actually only bonding for that $12,650,000.
So we know all this is approved. The second reading is pretty much a formality during this afternoon's meeting, Dale. It's for the purpose of financing water projects. And so what will start to happen once this, will there be a bank account with this money in it, and then the city just starts drawing from it? What are the plans?
Yeah, so we would draw money from the state on it, and we wouldn't have payments due until we fully secure all the money.
Or complete the project?
Or complete the project.
And so how long will our modernization plan take? And basically it entails installing water meters throughout city property, all the commercial, all the residential property, right?
That's correct. Well, yeah, it's a water modernization, which is the AMI meter system. So installing meters. With that, there's leak detection and water quality monitoring. So that would be the first RFP that's already been let out to the public for bidding. We are ready to award that, but we're just waiting on the second reading of this bond ordinance. So once that's taken care of, we could bring that first phase back to council and start procuring some of the equipment for the project. And then there's a second part of that project for the modernization aspect of it, for asset management, smart pumping, which will help our wells and electricity costs, and monitor our pump and motor equipment. So, yeah, it's another big portion of the project that we'll be letting that contract out on November 6th. For interested parties to bid on some of those materials and things.
That's coming right up. So how many meters do we have to install?
We have about 10,500 connections throughout the city, and we have roughly 1,600 meters in the ground currently. So there we have 8,000 meters roughly to put in.
And so how much time does it take to install a meter?
If it's just installing the meter in an existing pit, the crews can go around and install a single meter in 20, 30 minutes, program it, and have it on the network ready to go. When we have to install the actual meter pit itself, that takes a little longer because we're excavating, installing the meter pit, connecting on to city side, customer side water lines. Also evaluating those lines at the time, see what kind of pipe materials they are, and basically seeing if they're in need of replacement as well.
So that'll be a good thing. Again, you can detect leaks. They might be on the city side, could be on the private property owner's side. We can talk a little bit about that. But it sounds as though when the city enacted the water meter ordinance, it applied to just new construction, right? That was a few years ago?
That's correct. New construction were the only customers that had to be metered. And with that, those new metered customers over the years have been subsidizing the flat rate customers, because flat rate customers are using 3 to 4 times the amount of water as the metered customers, and they're not paying for it.
Yeah, and that's going to change, and that should help the conservation. So about 1,600 of the properties are already metered. That's a fair estimate?
That's correct.
Okay. So installing the meters, so who pays for the equipment? Is it the property owner?
So this will be all funded through these bonds, and the loan we're taking out for that $12,650,000.
Okay. And we've spent some time, a few months, talking about the ramp up to this. So if the crew comes and they go to install your meter and they do discover a leak, what would you say, Dale? What will the process be like then?
We would talk to the homeowner if the leak was on their property and either work with them to get it fixed right then and there, or, if it's close in proximity where we're working, because we're going to have to take some of the line out to install the meter pit, we may encompass that in our installation.
Because it's likely that with all these older homes, which I don't know, actually it's not, I don't have an idea. Are there more older homes in Elko than newer homes, or?
I think there's more older homes in the tree streets than
definitely in
newer
the tree
homes,
streets,
for
right.
sure, right.
I just couldn't off the top of my head think, have we had more new construction that encompasses the older homes? I mean, the ratio of, it might be about even, huh? Double in size, or?
Yeah, newer compared to what?
Well,
right?
that's a good point. Yeah, 100 years
what
old
we
versus
think,
50. Yeah,
a home built in the 80s. That's a long time now.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
So,
You're right.
I mean, it's 40 plus years old. So most of the homes are older homes, I would think.
So property owners should be aware, I guess, that there are some things that they could be responsible for, right, Dale? I mean, and you can get insurance for this.
Yeah, we do have the insurance program. I've seen a lot of talk on Facebook that it's not real. And
it's real. I bought my policy. It's real.
Yeah,
yes.
It's a real policy that the city's offering through a third-party insurance carrier.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's very inexpensive, really, for water and sewer. It's roughly $12, $13 a month for both policies, and it'll cover the replacement or repair of water lines and sewer lines all the way out to the main on the sewer.
So that might be from your house to your yard, right?
Yeah, so water, customers' responsibilities from the house to the meter pit or shutoff valve, and then on sewer, you're actually responsible all the way out to the city main, including the connection. So if you had to replace your sewer lateral, you would have to get a street cut permit, replace that asphalt and everything once you dig into the alleyways or streets.
All right. And that's not uncommon for some of these older properties.
It's actually very common. We deal with a lot of those replacements every year.
I remember asking Mayor Franzoya, so that was a long time ago, right? I said, because we were talking about property taxes on homes, I think that was right before the big initiative was launched. And I said, well, why is it that, an older home owner pays less property tax? And the way he explained it was, well, that city leaders at least see it as when you have an older home, you often do pay for big things, whether it's like you have to have a chimney repointed or water and sewer. There are some big things that could happen that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
So.
And that really goes with the utilities. Mm-hmm. I mean, water lines are expensive to replace, even if it's a 3/4 inch line run into your house. I mean, that's a lot of excavation on your private property and installing a new service line.
All right. So property owners could be responsible for some of this. If they want to know more about the insurance policy, which is real, what's the best thing to do?
They can contact City Hall, either the Utilities Department or Water Department Finance Billing.
Okay. And then you can get the website.
Yeah, we can get the information to them if they haven't got one of the flyers in the mail.
Or you threw it away because you didn't think it was real. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But you still have time, and here we are approaching the new year, so it's a good time to get this insurance before this all starts to happen, right?
Yeah, and depending on the type of material, especially in some of the older areas like the tree streets, depending on the pipe material, depending on the year the home was built, it could be a lead service line, it could be a galvanized service line. There's a number of things. We haven't found any lead service lines on the city side of the system to date. We've have found some lead connections, which we replace when we find those. But there's no telling if the customer's line could be one of these materials that's required to be replaced.
All right. And again, that could be the property owner's responsibility.
It could end up being that way.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Again, we're just trying to remind people it's a water modernization plan. It applies to everybody within Elko city limits, and it could start happening as early as the new year, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, once winter lets up.
Yeah, as soon as we are able to get in front of council and get our first RFP bid approved, then we can start purchasing materials. Some of the meter pits that are existing, we could start installing meters after first of the year.
So some of this isn't up to the city utilities department or the water or sewer department, but there are some things like homes that are converted into apartments. Will they have separate water meters?
Apartments, typically, we've gone out and tried to get a lot of the apartments metered over the past 10 years. It actually saves them quite a bit of money. Then they can separate their irrigation out as well. So they would have meters on the apartments, meters on their irrigation, and then, it kind of saves them money. There's still some of the smaller apartment units, duplexes, triplexes, things like that haven't been metered. But again, that would probably save them quite a bit of money. And most of those have a single service. So it would even benefit them in that aspect.
All right. So the city will reach out to them when the conversion comes, or they can contact the city if they want?
They can contact the city if they want to get moved up on the list or at this point. But after probably July or January 1st, it's going to be mandated and we'll start installing meters.
Okay. So that's the date, January 1st, 2025.
Yeah.
All right. And it could save you money if you're an owner of a VRBO, for example, too, right? So, because you've been paying a flat rate, but if you don't have people in your home all the time, then you're just going to pay for what they use.
That's correct.
All right. So there's plenty of incentive. Any of the concerns that you want to address, Dale, or anything that you have been hearing that you want to make sure you have a chance to clear up?
We are doing a sewer line assessment right now. We have contracted with R.H. Borden. Their crews are out in the community doing an acoustic assessment on manholes. So they'll open up 2 manholes at a time, and they'll put their acoustic readers on the manholes down in the hole, and it'll send an acoustic reading down the line, and it'll tell us if the sewer remains blocked or has any imperfections in it, things like that. And it'll score it out, and then we'll get that score and be able to focus our maintenance and repairs on specific areas rather than starting at one end of the city and cleaning, cameraing areas that don't need cleaned or cameraed and focus on the areas that do.
So is this separate from the modernization plan since it's sewer?
It is separate. Yep. This is something we budgeted for in this year's budget. Along with the project, they're GPS in all the manholes in the city. They're doing level 1 manhole inspections, so they're evaluating the manholes to see if the actual manholes need repaired or if the concrete's spalling or if some of the older ones have bricks in them still. They're brick lined and not concrete. So it's a pretty informative study that's going on. They also check our pipe elevations, inverts, and things like that. So
interesting. It reminds me of Cedar Street reconstruction, right? There were a few surprises.
There are some surprises out there, and this will be a comprehensive study of the entire collection system. So it'll also give us an idea of where our lines are full at capacity, or if they need to be upsized, or if we're doing good, and give us a direction in the future on how to manage that system.
Well, I know you make reports regularly at City Council. There's always a time at the end when all the department heads or chiefs or all the officials get to make reports. But will you keep us up to date on how that project's going?
Yeah, we will. And it's all GIS based, so we'll actually have a mapping system of everything, and we'll be able to show council exactly where our focus needs to be, on what lines should be slip lined in the future, replaced, and things like that. And that'll probably be one of the upcoming meetings where once we get all that data back, we'll bring that to council and show them the whole picture of the sewer system and let them know what's going on.
Well, I may be one of the only people, and I'm like, that's kind of cool, all that infrastructure. It's all underground. We don't see it, but it's essential. So
It is.
Yes, Dale. So thank you. So did we get through most of the water sewer issues for today, or?
I think we have. I do want to mention that we just submitted our lead and copper inventory to NDEP. We do have about 3,000 unknown service lines, and this is water service lines.
You're on top of it because that's a federal mandate, right?
It is, yeah, and that list was due the 16th of October, and then now we have 30 days to notify any homeowner that has an unknown. So they will be receiving a letter from the city. We're partnering with 120 Water to send those letters. The letters will have specific EPA language that your service line's unknown. We don't know if it's what pipe material. It could be lead, may not be lead. There'll also be a portion in there that the homeowner or customer, if they're a rental unit or something, can go and investigate their pipe coming into the house, and they could report that back to us, and we could get them off that list if it's not one of the materials that is mandated to be removed. So,
I was just going to say, so what do we do if we get one of those letters, Dale? Should we be concerned? We shouldn't ignore it, right?
you shouldn't ignore it, but I'd read the letter.
It'll have instructions.
It'll have instructions. Evaluate your pipes if you can. Feel free to reach out to the utilities department or city hall, and one of us can even come over and look at their piping and check it out for them.
All right.
And that would update our list as well. So
More to come on that one.
Yep.
Okay, so looking for the lead and copper pipes. Those
Yep.
need to be replaced.
Yep, within 10 years, they all have to be replaced if they're underground. And cities are being told you need to budget or fund for 10% a year over that 10-year period.
So it sounds like maybe Great Basin College needs to invest in a plumbers program, right? We need to train some plumbers. Yeah. Because that is a pretty specialized field, obviously.
It is.
Okay. Well, Dale, the last thing that'll happen on the council meeting when the board meets in regular session at 4 today, just want to quickly mention that in all fairness, they're following up on revocation of permits for Sue's Fantasy Club in violation of city codes after finding a minor on the premises of the licensed brothel. There was an infant who was a child of a worker there, a bartender. It's important to note she was licensed to work as a bartender, but now her husband, who was the infant's father, is going to waive his hearing and go along with the suspension of his work permit for 3 months, according to this attachment to the city council. So it sounds as though there really won't be a public hearing. It'll just be an order by the council to suspend that person's work permit. And in 3 months, from October 9th, I think it was, then they'll be able to reopen the brothel and regain their licenses, I guess, if they choose.
Yeah, that's correct. He's agreed to all the terms, so...
He took responsibility.
He has. So
Yeah, that's important to note. He's a maintenance person there.
that's correct. This one should pass pretty easy and shouldn't be too much of a hearing on it.
All right. It's important to note that there were no abuse, no reports of injury or anything as a result of that. So the police did their job. They brought that to the attention of the city, and the appropriate action was taken. So anything else, Dale, I guess?
I can't think of anything else right now.
All right. Well, we went a little bit over, but thank you for all the information today. Appreciate it. And City Council meets at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Thank you, listeners, for joining us for Elko Live today. Our guest has been Dale Johnson. He's our Elko City Utilities Director. Oh, the best number to reach utilities if they have questions about anything we talked about, Dale, is?
775-777-7120.
Okay, that'll do it.
Right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, listeners, for joining us.